Overall, there are over 3,000 games on the Nintendo eShop. Playing a new game every day, it would take over 8 years to get through every one of them. I'm sure none of us have the time or the money or the patience for that. So how do you know what's good and what's a load of tosh? Well, you could Google it. There are many an article looking at the best eShop games. But why would you want to when you can watch me waffle on for the next 15 minutes or so? The Nintendo Switch has been a hotbed for smaller indie developers to gain some much deserved consideration. Games which might not have garnered much attention are finally being noticed and have been given a new lease of life thanks to the Nintendo Switch and its hybrid capabilities. For this series, I'm going to look at the different styles of game from different developers with different prices and different genres for a bit of variety. Different. This list is in no particular order. I'll do an ordered list of my favourite eShop games another day. Also, there are many other games I could put on this list, however, to keep this video from lasting hours, I'll stick to just 7 at first. In a few weeks I'll do another one. Note well that these games are not available for general physical purchase. You might be able to get a couple of them on a limited basis from companies like Limited Run or Super Rare Games, but for the most part I'm going to stick with games that are on general sale across the world, digitally only. To start with, I'm going to go back 4 years, when life seemed so much better. We could leave the house, go to the pub, go meet friends, hug people, to the launch of the Switch. Arguably one of the greatest launch titles of all time, Zelda Breath of the Wild, hit the shelves. We also got the very average Bomberman R and the even more average 1-2 Switch. Aside from that though, the Switch was hardly awash with new titles. One of them, however, is the first game on this list. Fast RMX is a game very similar in style to the Wipeout games or F-Zero X for the Nintendo 64. It's a racing game, but instead of cars you use anti-gravity vehicles to travel at unbelievable speeds in 36 different stages. You also have the colour burst mechanic. If the colour of your exhaust matches the colour strip on the ground, you get a boost. Then again, if it doesn't, you slow down. You can switch between these colours with the press of a button. You've also got orbs to collect to fill your boost gauge. The real reason this game is on this list is the incredible smooth performance and the stunning visuals. At 60 frames per second, this game to this day looks absolutely brilliant. At no point that I've played the game have I felt a slowdown or a visual anomaly. That combined with the fun gameplay, the inventive tracks and the great multiplayer make this the perfect game for anyone looking for a Wipeout or F-Zero fix on the Switch. I was actually in 2 minds as to whether to put this one on the list, as there are a couple of niggles which might wind you up a little bit. Anyone who grew up in the 90s, early 2000s with platforming games left, right and centre being released will probably enjoy this one. Snake Pass is a physics-based platformer from Sumo Digital. In this game you take control of Noodle, the vegetarian snake, and his hummingbird friend Doodle. Noodle and Doodle, who must traverse 15 levels across 4 worlds to find keystones that allow for travel between the different levels. The emphasis of this game is the gameplay. As you're a snake, there's no real traditional platforming involved. There's no jumps, no double jumps, no attacks. To traverse the levels you have to think as a snake. To get around you slither. To climb you loop around posts and ladders. Because of this, the controls are going to feel unusual and probably unlike anything you've played before. Certainly not an easy game. Getting the hang of snaking around can be difficult. The annoying camera angles don't always help either. But if you are looking for something completely different to your generic platforming collectathons, then definitely take a stab at this one. It's pretty good. What Remains of Edith Finch is a story-based walking simulator from Giant Sparrow. The main gist of the story is that there is a belief among the Finch family that there is a curse whereby all but one of each generation of the Finches will die in mysterious circumstances. You, as the main character, wander around the Finch homestead discovering what actually happened to the Finches. I mean, it's hardly a barrel of laughs, and probably not a game I can recommend in good faith for young kids. But for a more adult audience who loves story-driven games, What Remains of Edith Finch is, in my opinion, a masterpiece of gaming storytelling. It's not the longest game in the world, and there are a few graphical anomalies that, although don't really detract away from the experience, they can be noticeable at times. What Remains of Edith Finch, however, is definitely a game I can highly recommend, and I implore you to give this one a go. Developed by just 7 people as a debut for Supergiant Games, Bastion was initially released in 2012 on the Xbox 360. 6 years later, it's made its way over to the Switch and garnered critical success. This action role-playing game from the same developers that brought you Transistor and Hades, you'll probably see them in a later video, takes place in a post-apocalyptic sky city known as Caelondia. That has become a bit of a crumbling wreck thanks to the Calamity. The player, or as he's known in the game, the Kid, starts his adventure travelling to the Bastion, where survivors of the Calamity have agreed to meet. When he arrives, he meets only one person, Rux, who advises that he should explore the land to find the cause that once powered the city. And that's where I'll end with my explanation because, well, spoilers. All you really need to know is that the game plays incredibly well. It has an isometric view, which some people may be familiar with if you enjoyed your RPGs in the late 90s, early 2000s. It looks fantastic and plays brilliantly too. You have things to collect and weapons to equip to defeat some inventive enemies. For me, however, the real highlight of the game is the incredibly well-written real-time narrative that follows you, detailing every movement and expanding the story as you go. This narrative comes from Rux, who you meet early in the game. It's a very clever way to keep you engrossed as you move through the story. Bastion is, in my opinion, a real gem on the Switch. Super Meat Boy is a 2D platform game from Team Meat Studios that was released initially in 2010 for the Xbox 360. In 2018 it made its way over to the Switch where, in my opinion, it's found its rightful home. It's very much a pick up and play game and is perfect for the hybrid Nintendo system. Story-wise, so there's a piece of meat who sets out to rescue his girlfriend Bandage Girl from the diabolical Dr. Fetus. Dr. Fetus is an intellectual fetus in a glass jar. Okay, it sounds a bit disgusting, and some of the sounds that come out of the game are a bit rank as well. Especially when you die, there's this weird squelch. The real pull of this game is the ridiculously responsive and challenging gameplay. There are 300 levels with increasing difficulty as you move through them. Once you've finished the light world levels, you can then play the dark world levels, which is just harder versions of the levels. There are also only 2 action buttons, the run and jump buttons. Using these alone, you must run, leap and wall jump your way across increasingly difficult 2D planes to reach the finish. You will die a lot in this game, but each time you do, you gain info on what not to do. The level reloads instantly and you can go again. If you're looking for a great pick up and play experience which can be played in quick bursts or longer sessions with crisp and fluent fun gameplay, take a look at this one. Next is a game with a little more strategy and thinking involved. From Image and Form Games comes SteamWorld Heist, a side-scrolling strategy game with robots. Anybody who's ever played any of the SteamWorld games will be familiar with the art style. It's got sort of a dystopian, cartoony, steampunk kind of feel. Well, you can see it there. The game revolves around you, Captain Piper Faraday, travelling galaxies, looting and taking over enemy ships. Along the way you'll recruit other robots to join your team and upgrade your arsenal with the loot you acquire. The gameplay is incredibly fun. It's turn-based with the ultimate goal of each level to destroy enemy bots or to gather all the loot on their ship. Levels are for the most part procedurally generated, which means it would be unusual to play the same map twice. What that also means is the game never gets stale. There's a lot of replayability in this game. There's a lot of fun to be had here for anybody who likes a game that makes them think. Just as an FYI as well, pretty much all of the SteamWorld games are a heap of fun. The guys over at Image and Form do a fantastic job at tackling any genre they develop a game in. I'm sure I'll cover more of them in this series, but you can't really go too far wrong with any of them. I was going to leave Golf Story until a later video, as I've said before, it's possibly in my top 3 games on the Switch, period. I'm not a massive fan of golf, to be honest. I don't feel the urge to go and play 18 holes at the weekend. I find it a bit tedious. I mean, I'm useless at it as well, so that doesn't help. The point is, my love of this game does not come from a love of playing golf. On first inspection of the game, it doesn't scream out as a console seller either. As a 16-bit game, modern isn't the first word that comes to mind. The reason I love this game is the RPG single player experience and the fun gameplay. You play as a golfer, alright, who has fallen out of favour with the game and hasn't really played in 20 years. The story is centred around his quest to work his way onto the professional tour to impress his estranged wife. Along the way you meet some quirky and imaginative characters who are there to help or hinder your way to the top. As you can imagine, golf does feature in the game. However, the golfing gameplay is fun. It's not massively technical, you don't really ever need to have played golf before to enjoy this one. All you need to know is you've got to get the ball in the hole. Also, there are other related sports that feature at parts of the game as well, like mini golf, disc golf and even bowls. Fun. Also, even as a 16-bit game, many of the environments are brilliant. There are different areas of the game that are presented in different ways. Like there's an icy area, a foresty area, and others that actually make the game look stunning. If you've taken one look at this game and thought it looks like something I might have played 20 years ago, I would say look past that and give this a go. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. As I've said, this is just a small portion of games that I love on the eShop, but there are a lot more which I'll go through in later videos. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more of this kind of thing, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.